and welcome back to the Challenge All-Stars 3 Power Rankings, and we're going to be going through all the players and deep diving and where they stand at the end of episode 3 heading into episode 4. We had quite a bit of people leave in episode 3. We had Tina getting medically DQ'd because she broke her hand. Then you had Jemmy having to go home because of a family emergency. And then you had Cyrus losing to MJ in the elimination. So that's 3 people gone just like that. But we have a new person coming into the challenge game and challenge house very, very soon, coming up in episode 4. But we have no idea who 100% that person is, so we can't power rank that person, but you can probably guess that that person's going to be down at the lower end of the power rankings because they are coming in so late. Everybody has been able to mingle, marinate, and get to know each other and the power dynamics within the house. So we can probably guess who's coming in as the reinforcement in episode 4 is going to come in with a disadvantage and could be sent into eliminations early and often. And before we get into the power rankings, I want to give a little bit of clarity on how I determined everyone's episode 3 finish and how they factor into the actual power rankings. If a player lost in round 2, I took the average of those placements, which were 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. I took the average of those placements, which were about 7.5 place, and that's what I put to all of the players that lost in round 2. For all the players that lost in round 3, the final round, which would have been 4th and 5th, I took the average of those placements, which were 4.5, and I put it to those 2 players that lost in the final round. I hope this clears up any confusion on how I decided the episode 3 finishes for everybody. And now on to the player rankings. With all that being said, let's jump into the power rankings for this episode at the end of episode 3 heading into episode 4. And we're going to start off with the lone person ranked at number 9 because there's only 8 women in the house so far. So we can only have 1 man at the bottom of the rankings, and that one person I have is MJ. MJ was sent into the elimination. Yes, he won. Yes, he now has 3 stars heading into the rest of this game, but people have taken a shot at him. People have clocked how close him and John A were. They just won last season. Them being in the house together and being that close, I think has a huge negative effect on their game. I think their target is just getting bigger and bigger as more people leave. MJ showed how vulnerable he is in this game from this episode where he has that giant knee brace on his knee. He couldn't do anything physical in the playing dirty challenge from this past week's episode. He stuck his foot in once, and then he pretty much just stayed there in the mud waiting for people to come to him to try to knock out the balls or trying to get somebody, and Cyrus ran right past him. Wes was able to get a ball and get past him, leaving him in the dirt or mud, should we say. MJ's main dish and main MO is his physicality, and I don't think he has that as we move further into the game. I think his knee is going to really hinder him going further into the game. So I have him at number 9. So now let's go into the 8th ranked man and woman, and I have Mark and Kendall. Mark, we didn't see too much in this episode. He was really hanging low after being sent into the elimination in episode 2. He kind of wanted to lay low. Mark is going to have to do something political and strategic to gain some momentum in the game, and I just don't think he has done it yet. I think he's talking to people, but I don't know how strong of those bonds he's making. So as of right now, I still have him ranked lower on the list because he has gone into elimination. I don't know how strong his ties are within the game since we last saw him in that elimination, so I'm going to keep him at number 8. And Kendall absolutely demolished her game in a blink of an eye this past episode. I mean, Kendall had, I think, some strong bonds. She was coming off that win, and then she had that sabotage and that indecision of not knowing what to do with that power, and then her crumbling around what I think was her last strong bonds within the game. I mean, yes, we know she's close with Darrell. Yes, she has KellyAnne, but if that's her only 2 allies in the game, it's not going to go well for Kendall, as she was easily voted in this episode. John A was really taking things personally when she sabotaged MJ. So I just feel like all eyes are on Kendall. She's enemy number 1 in the house for the Treehouse Alliance and John A and MJ. and I don't think she has strong bonds to where people are willing to stick their neck out for her. Let's go to number 7, and at number 7, I have Darrell and Naya. Both players still relatively quiet. Nothing is going on with Darrell and Naya. Darrell is not in the Treehouse Alliance. I don't know if he's playing with Wes. He seems to not like Wes after some of the confessionals from the 70s party. So I just feel like Darrell is kind of floating out there. He's not doing the best in daily challenges. He's not doing the worst in daily challenges. His name really hasn't been dropped in the bucket to be possibly sent into the elimination, but it's not being saved. Like, nobody's like stepping up for Darrell. So it just feels like Darrell is kind of just chilling out. The same with Naya. Jordan is the strongest bond she has in the game, and also her physicality will help her out well, but she is staying relatively quiet on the season. She's not doing a whole lot. I think she got one confessional this past episode. I want to see more from both Darrell and Naya. It's just not happening. So that's why I have them lower on the power rankings at number 7. Let's go into number 6, where I have Nehemiah and Ronnie. Ronnie, we heard, is in the Treehouse Alliance via the room, but if you listen carefully when they're at the 70s party and they're talking to Veronica and saying that it's ultimately Veronica's decision on who she wants to go up against, and they were labeling out all the possibilities of who they can vote into the elimination with Veronica, and Ronnie was one of the names, making me believe that she's on the outside of the Treehouse Alliance. What helps Ronnie in the long run is both Tina and Jemmy, who had stronger bonds within the Treehouse Alliance, have left. We saw last season in All-Stars Season 2 where Derek, Darrell, and Jody were really strong with each other. They were really close with one another, and then all of a sudden Derek leaves early on in the season. Now Brad fills that role. I feel like Ronnie can start filling in the roles that Tina and Jemmy have left, and I think Ronnie will find herself even stronger ties within the game now that, say, Tina, who was Veronica's number 1 and who was in a much better placement within the Treehouse Alliance, now Ronnie can kind of scooch into that position. So I still want to see more from Ronnie. I still want to see her get into power, and I want to know what she will do with that power once she gets it. But as of right now, I have her at number 6, and the same with Nehemiah. Nehemiah has done solid in his daily challenges, but nothing has really come from it. We saw him get very steamed up when Yes wrestled him in the mud without a ball. I think I like that intensity, but again, we see Nehemiah in the kitchen when Brad and Cyrus were talking at the breakfast table, and it just sounded like Nehemiah didn't know what to do with his game, right? I mean, he's talking about how Latyrian and Melinda had left the episode prior, and that was the 2 people that he could trust the most. Of course, Wes is his number 1, but they can't even talk, so it just feels like Nehemiah is kind of just like wandering around the house, not knowing what to do. I think that intensity in that fight is still in there. I just want to see it. I want to see it break out. Let's move into number 5. Around the middle of the pack here, we have Derek and Veronica. Yes, Veronica is a huge leader within the Treehouse Alliance, but we saw her performance in the challenge, and it wasn't good. She was one-on-one with Kendall, both same size. She just could not wrestle that ball away from Kendall, and she had feet and feet of that mud pit, and she just could not do it. She could not get it done. So yes, she has ties. Yes, she has friends. Yes, she has an alliance, but going into that elimination, I think Kendall wins. I think Kendall wins in that weight-up elimination against Veronica. So I think her physical strength and possibly going into an elimination hinders me from giving her anywhere into the top 5, past 5. I have Derek at number 5, a couple of spots higher than what he was last week because he got that win, because he got second place and did so well in the Playing Dirty Daily Challenge. He's in the Treehouse Alliance, but let's be real. How integrated is he really in this Treehouse Alliance? He's the only guy in the Treehouse Alliance. He wasn't talking to a lot of the Treehouse at the party. We didn't see them. They were really talking about Veronica mainly, and I think they were going to fill in Derek later. If anything, Derek is a number to them, and he can't really go against them. I mean, at the authority meeting, he has to vote in Cyrus, even though him and Cyrus are best friends. The same thing with Kendall. I don't think Derek really cares who to vote for on the women's side, but if anything, I think he knows how strong of a competitor Kendall can be, and I think that he would rather keep Kendall on, but because he's in this Treehouse Alliance and he doesn't want his room turning on him, he will go along with whatever they say. So I don't know if he's really in a power position or if he's just a number, and because of his number, because of his vote, that offers him protection. So he's in the alliance, he did win, so he jumps up a few spaces and gets to the 5 spot. Let's move to number 4, and at number 4, shocking enough, my 2 players that were in the number 2 spot dropped down to number 4, and that is Wes and KellyAnne. Wes was campaigning all episode to get Yes into the elimination and could not get it done. He hit an immovable object called Jonna and her political game in All-Stars, which is super, super strong. But Wes, we did see have some persuasion over some of the players, like Mark, like Brad. I think that Wes does have some power, but he has not won. He was just sabotaged. He didn't get his way in getting Yes into the elimination, despite having people agree that yes should go into the elimination. It just was not working out for Wes. So that's why he's at number 4. And KellyAnne, because of her and Kendall's game this episode, taking a huge hit with everything that was going on with Kendall dropping all the way at the bottom. KellyAnne did not gain any power, any help, but KellyAnne's physicality, I think, helps her stay within the top 5 that I have and over Veronica for sure. And she also has some ties with Wes, with Nehemiah. So I think that KellyAnne is a little bit more insulated than what the edit is giving her credit for. And she's also very perceptive in clocking how close Jonna and MJ were. So that's why I have KellyAnne at number 4. Let's get into the top 3. And at number 3, I have Brad and Jonna. Brad wins into the authority a second time, this time getting first place, and this time locking in a stellar performance while getting that top spot in the authority. He had no real power once he got into the authority because Kayla, Jonna, Sylvia, and Derek were having all the power, having the majority of the votes. So whatever they said happened. So Brad was just burning votes left and right in the authority. But Brad's physical strength, him being close with Wes, and getting numbers and doing really well the past 2 daily challenges get him into the top 3 and get him to that 3rd spot. Jonna was a powerhouse this episode. I mean, she got 2nd place in the authority for the 2nd time in a row, back-to-back authority positions, and then she wanted Kendall in the elimination, so did the Treehouse, so that wasn't really a power play, but then you have Wes trying to get Yes thrown in. MJ wants Cyrus badly, and you know what? Jonna was like, whatever MJ wants, MJ gets, and I'm gonna make it happen. MJ might not have the best ties, but Jonna does. Jonna has a great social game. She has a great strategic game. She is taking everything so personally. I don't like how close MJ and Jonna are because I think it puts a giant target on their back. But Jonna showed just how strong she is politically and socially within this game. And right now I have her in the top 3. Coming in at number 2, I have dropping 1 spot is Yes. And then we have Kayla moving up. I think Yes and Kayla are strong competitors. Both have been in the authority twice. Kayla got first place this past episode, and she's in this Treehouse Alliance. Yes, when his name is called, is not being sent in. So that's why I don't have him dropping any further. Yes, he made some enemies with Nehemiah. Wes has him at the top of his hit list. But even with all that being said, Yes did not see his first elimination yet. He still has some insulation. He still has some friends in the game. And I think socially and strategically, he is doing well. And that's why I have him at number 2. And Kayla, with her alliances in the Treehouse, I think with Tina and Jemmy gone, her bonds with Veronica and Sylvia are even that much tighter. And she's doing a fantastic job in the daily challenges, getting into the authority twice back to back. And now let's get to who's at the top spot. And for the women, there is no change from last week, as I still have Sylvia at the #1 spot on these power rankings for the women. Sylvia has made it to her second authority on the season. She had a ton of help. She's in the Treehouse Alliance, just like I said about Kayla. With Tina and Jemmy leaving, Sylvia's bonds with the Treehouse are just getting tighter. Sylvia is looked at as a strong competitor. She is physically doing well on the women's side, and she is constantly winning and getting into these authorities, getting into these power positions. And right now, Sylvia is full steam ahead, looking to get further and further and further into this game. I mean, I just don't know who's going to stop this roaring train of Sylvia and the Treehouse Alliance. I would like to meet that person, because right now it just seems like it's a steam engine just bulling on through this season so far. And at #1, we have, jumping 2 spots from last week, is Jordan. Jordan gets into his second authority, back-to-back authorities. I mean, he did a great job in that mud pit. He even got a little nut tap from Cyrus, but he still got 3rd place. And yes, he did not have really any power once he was in the authority. But we had Wes. We had Wes, who was putting out Jordan's name in episode 1. And now look how the roles have reversed, where Jordan has gotten into his second authority on the season. And now Wes needs a favor and is asking Jordan, just please put your vote on yes and we can get this done. And Jordan was like, yeah, I would like to do that, playing nice. But realistically, Jordan was probably not going to ever put yes in, because it really didn't matter with the Treehouse and John A. As well as, I feel like Jordan's target has been slowly shrinking. Yes, he has been winning into the authority, which could have put a huge target on his back. But as this whole power struggle between Wes and Yes has happened and is starting to take over the house, and people are starting to get into the mix of it, Jordan, I feel, is just like hiding in plain sight. His target is just shrinking right now. Yes, he's winning. Yes, he's a big threat. Nobody is denying that. But right now, everybody's just getting caught up in the mix between Wes and Yes, and John A. and Kendall, and bigger fish are starting to emerge while Jordan can kind of slip back a little bit. And I just feel like he is just a really, really strong competitor heading further into the game. But that is it for the power rankings for this week. Do you agree with my power rankings? Do you disagree? What are your power rankings? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your generosity. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for watching this video up to this point. I will be back with more Challenge All-Star content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.